This episode of Hollow Weekly is brought to you by Nick's Bandwagons. For when you see a film and you don't catch on to it for a million different reasons and you come to realize something like, 8, 9, 10 years later that the film's really good and you want to act like you've always loved it, get Nick's Bandwagons. Over there you'll find films such as Halloween 3, Jennifer's Body, which you'll hear about here in a little bit, and what's another film I bandwagoned on?
Exorcist 3?
Exorcist 3. There were some other ones that I didn't really care about and then I jumped on to.
Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, sort of.
I'm working on that one.
Halloween 2018.
I grew to love that one. I'll bandwagon on that one too. So come on down to Nick's Bandwagons and start loving some films you didn't really get to enjoy the first time.
I'll take 2.
Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. Nick and George here, and we have a great episode. Dread Central. Dread Central just did an article where they got a bunch of horror experts. I think our invitation got lost in the mail.
Yes.
That's okay. We forgive you. No sweat.
Yeah, I shouldn't be mailing anymore anyway.
Yeah, you know.
Dread Central.
They probably sent like a carrier pigeon and a coyote grabbed it. I don't know.
I hope.
It could be a billion different things that went wrong.
I hope they didn't send a carrier pigeon. I've seen Cat's Eye.
So anyways, they had a bunch of horror experts go on there, and they just gave out their underrated performances.
Yeah, the way they phrased it, which I liked, was they had said that they wanted to get a thoughtful list of performances in horror movies that no one talks about.
That was the big thing. No one talks about it.
It wasn't underrated. It was literally like really forgotten or no one talks about it enough. So we're going to do our own unique twist on it with credited theft to Dread Central for the idea. And we'll bring our own spin to it. So you want to jump in?
Yeah. I'm just going to go through our emails real quick, make sure. Just kidding.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding. I know they didn't invite us, but that's okay. E.G. Marshall. I'm going to just start. I'm coming out of this gate fucking fast,
You
dude.
are. You did.
Fast, dude. So I know they did performances that nobody talks about.
Yes.
But I feel like the ones that I picked, people love. I feel like we could put a spotlight on it. Like when Good Bad Flicks does a good, you're like, I've seen that film, but I don't know these facts he's about to talk about.
Totally.
I don't have facts, but I just want to talk about it.
Well, and that's fair. I mean, to be honest with you, like so I've spent a lot of time reading about and living horror, and I've never, if I've come across one even paragraph on E.G. Marshall, I don't remember.
Well, here's the thing. You and I haven't really talked about it. Me and you, somewhere when we were doing How Low Can We Go, got these ginormous boners for George C. Scott.
Yep.
Because I fucking love that dude.
Yep.
But I feel like E.G. Marshall is in that same... So let me explain. E.G. Marshall is in Creepshow. He's also in Christmas Vacation. He's one of the uncles that comes to stay. But he was in the segment They're Creeping Up on You, which is the famous Roach scene, which people do talk about. I mean, when Bravo did their top 100 scares movie once, it was like in the top 10. And this was the scene that they had talked about. But I feel like this is one of the scenes that like some YouTubers got to go through and like break down as to why it was so good. Because I still can't do it. I know it's there, and I'm going to try to discuss it on the show.
Sure.
But to me, that segment is like a one-man play.
Yes.
I mean,
That's absolutely right.
You get the doorman and you get the few phone calls, but just the fact that like he's in Christmas Vacation, he's kind of a goofball, but he's just a huge piece of shit in this one.
Yes.
And the fact that the way he conveys it, too, in this scene, I thought was really brilliant. Just being, basically, it was like, what if we took Scrooge and just put him in a Tales from the Crypt comic?
But I think one of the magic little things that he pulls off in that one is, so in the horror movies, they want to give you the character that you're rooting for to die, right? Like
yeah.
The douchebag character. But so he's clearly that, but you're not quite rooting against him entirely. You're rooting for him a little bit. You want him to bite it, but for some reason there's something weirdly charming somewhere in him. Right, so like I don't know how he pulled that off, but it's a really cool.
It's what we were so before we recorded, we were talking about The Sopranos, and before you even showed up today, me and Alex J were talking about it, and what Jenny said was, why am I rooting for Tony? And I'm sort of rooting for this guy. I know he's everyone loves a lovable asshole,
right? Right.
And given the option of this human being versus cockroaches, I'm gonna go with the human being.
Yeah,
100% of the time.
Totally.
So.
Well, you still, like I said, you still need him to go. But like the weird thing is, there's a good comparison right inside this very movie because like Leslie Nielsen, you're not rooting for.
No.
You're like zero rooting for Leslie
No.
Nielsen, right? But you are sort of empathetic to E.G. Marshall a little bit. I'm telling you, I don't know.
You know what it is? You know what it is? Now that we're getting the ball rolling and discussing it is Father's Day. I don't really care about anyone in there.
Right.
You know, the dad's the father, obvious douche nozzle,
right.
whatever. But I think, everyone, I don't know. There's something about like a bug infestation that like, we had a problem with the ants not too long ago. At some point in time, it just drives you up the fucking wall.
Yes.
You're trying to do everything you can to kill these goddamn ants.
Yes.
And so like when you're watching Creepshow, you're like, right on, brother, fight on the good fight, man. Get them roaches out of here.
He played it. He played it really isolated, and I think there's something subconsciously in people that has a little bit of sympathy for people who are just totally alone. Right?
Yeah.
And he played it like sort of, you can't imagine him having a good time with anyone.
Or at any time. Right. Just in general.
Well, he has a good time like just shitting on things, right? But like just having a good time with another human being, that's hard to imagine him.
Yeah. I do think it's probably one of the breakout performances from Creepshow. Everyone was pretty good, and of course, you know, in Father's Day, what's his name? Ed. What's his name? He's not. He's a serious actor, so he doesn't do the horror stuff anymore.
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. Yeah.
Dancer.
I'm gonna drag that through the mud every time I get a chance.
Poor Ed.
But I do think he was probably even with someone to tie you over. Ted Danson, Leslie Nielsen. I still think E.G. Marshall. I think it felt the most Creepshow. Like, he's going to get his up and comings, and he's going to perform the hell out of it.
Yeah, I think
there's something likable about him. I like Scrooge McDuck, and I like him.
I totally agree.
So that's my first pick.
All right, well,
it's a light pick, a light salad.
I'm going to swap the order because I like the segue you set up for me, because mine is also going to involve George C. Scott. So you and I, we know that George C. Scott is an amazing actor, one of my favorites. And he was fantastic in Exorcist 3, right? But he got like a whole bunch of crap for that performance. Like I don't know if they had Razzies back then, but he basically got that, whatever their version of that was.
Yeah.
And that was not deserved. And I want to award the George C. Scott Award for having a great performance in a movie overshadowed entirely by another movie, which is what happened to Exorcist 3. I'm going to give this award to Albert Finney in Wolfen. Right now, Albert Finney is an amazing English actor. He was incredible in Miller's Crossing, let's say, right? But here's the thing: is I want to set this up for.
No way, Albert Finney. I'm looking this up right now.
He was in Big Fish too.
Albert Finney, Scrooge.
Go look at that. That was full circle.
Wow, how crazy is that?
Podcast over.
So we went with two Scrooges.
Beautiful. I love it. So, but here's the thing. So, I want to just spotlight. He does an amazing job in this performance, but one of the reasons why his performance is so good is because I think that he really, really understood the movie he was in. I was trying to look for things where in the performance, it wasn't just the performance was good, but there was something super special about it, like some element about it. Right? And I think his super special element is that he really understood the material he was working with, which I don't think a lot of actors do. Understand the movie they're in, they understand the part, but maybe not the whole movie, right? Mm-hmm. So Wolfen's like an incredible film, but let's set this up because this quote, I found this quote, it blew my mind, right? So in 2003, the president of the Montana Shooting Sports Association made a brash and deliberately provocative claim. Quote, "One might reasonably view man's entire development and creation of civilization as a process of fortifying against wolves." Unquote. Right? So like our brains got smart, we got faster, we got better with our hands, we got everything because we were trying to fight off wolves. Like literally we became humans fighting off our most drastic enemy, right? So that's a claim that he makes, right? And it goes on after this saying that this is a rereading of civilization as lupicide, which I was just like, whoa, fucking cool word, lupicide, I'm down with, okay. So I was like really excited about this like setup, right? And then it says, hatred of wolves is an ancient passion and contemporary lupophobes are in good company. There's
contemporary
lupophobes, right? This is the word. So then, all right. Well, lastly, I'm gonna read to, but this is the quote. It's some count. I've missed the writing of the. This is like the Hamilton-esque writing.
Oh,
right?
jeez.
In fine, the wolf is consummately disagreeable. His aspect is base and savage. His voice dreadful. His odor insupportable. His disposition perverse. His manners ferocious, odious, destructive when living, and when dead, he is perfectly useless. So
wow,
that is shit talking on a level like elegant, right? Shit talking about wolves. So now you have this movie.
It's like tea time trash talk.
Totally. So you have this movie where it's taking place in a completely rundown city, destroyed economy, destroyed society. It's that high crime era, right? It's kind of like what Don't Breathe was hinting at, but ages ago, right?
Yeah.
So you got like this position of humanity really coming up against the limit of maybe we're not as smart as we think we are. And it turns out each city is secretly sort of controlled, almost like Ra's al Ghul style, by packs of super intelligent, supernatural wolves, right? Who are our enemy. So to play a role where you're the leading example, he's the detective. Albert Finney's like leading the charge against the wolves, right? So he's leading charge against the wolves, but the wolves really are in the right.
Yeah.
Right? Like in most monster movies, the monsters are not in the right. Like Cloverfield is not in the right for just like wantonly killing everything.
Yeah, get a clue.
Right? But the monsters are sort of in the right, and we're sort of the real monsters, right? So like to play that, you got to split it down the middle. You got to be like able to do an action scene, take charge, pull a gun, do the things that you would have to do to be like the representative humanity going against the enemy, like the hunters used to do to protect their flocks. But you also have to be kind of sad and thoughtful about the fact that you're fighting on the wrong side. You're the wrong cause, right? You got to convey both those things, and he totally does that. Like his performance is like really cynical and gruff, and like it reminds me a lot of Brendan Gleeson's performance in Mr. Mercedes, right? Like he's playing a detective who has this undercurrent of sadness, but it's also super smart, super determined to get the job done, like a thing. So he has to get those things across. One of the things I really like about this though is, so first of all, he has the best fake American accent in history. If you hear him in an interview, he is more English than Mr. Bean.
Jesus.
Right? So, but his American accent in this movie is like, I can't identify where
we watched that one together, and I have no idea.
Right, exactly. So that was fucking amazing. So that that's a thing. But my favorite thing about this is that remember all the scenes in Wolfen where they're shooting it from the POV and like
yes.
So one of the things with humanity is all our resources went to our brains. Our senses are for shit, right? So like we don't have a great sense of smell or sight or hearing or whatever, but like it's all in our brain. So all our nutrition, all that stuff steered to the brain. Grow a brain, fuck the senses. You don't need them because you'll just make tools and do all the shit. The wolves have the senses like motherfuckers, right? Like they're the ones who can, like, and you see in the movie, they can see from like a mile away. They see like heat signatures and they can smell blood and like,
they can smell you.
So they have like the heightened senses, but these wolves are also super smart. And the characters in Wolfen are basically like alone. Like there's nobody who believes these. Like he keeps telling people this is happening. No one believes him. His girlfriend doubts him, if she's even really his girlfriend, right? And like so, everyone's kind of like broken up and divided alone.
I forgot how good of a detective movie that is.
Right, and then all the human beings are not getting along. The relationships aren't going great. Everyone's having trouble. The city's not functioning. The Wolfpack's doing fine.
They're just great. Chilling. They're
like, right, exactly. So like they are literally advanced, and we're not. And one of the things that like fascinates me about his acting of that is that he had to act the part of someone who was going up against the enemy that he was totally outmatched by. And if you watch the last scene, spoiler coming, about when they confront the wolves and he figures out the way to confront them is nonviolence. He puts down his gun, right? And he tells the girl, his girlfriend who has a gun, put down her gun in the scene. And they confront each other and you just see it in his eyes. He's like, this fight isn't worth it. And he just figured out the fight isn't worth it. But then he just figured out what they've known the whole movie, which means they're smarter, right? So he has to play it as transitioning from the detective who's the smartest guy in his division. He's the one who knows what's happening. He's the one who's discovering the crimes. he has to dial it back and have the scene where he's literally acting against animals, and they're smarter than he is, and he has to pull that off. And it's all there. It's like in his eyes, his body language. That final scene is just like a masterclass of getting a whole bunch of emotions out, but with very, very minimal. It's not like Jack Nicholson Joker. Like this is a very understated performance, right? So what's special about it is he understood the message of the movie and adapted his performance to it. So he's
molded himself.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a fucking amazing actor. So
I feel like Wolfen's one of those movies, no matter what kind of list we come up with.
I know.
It's got it's got something you could plug in there.
It's got so much stuff. And it's sort of ageless. It didn't really age that badly. Like, it's still very, very watchable.
Yeah. Because when did we watch it? It wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago, and it's also one of the best openings of any horror movie ever. So it's just a great thing, great performance. He's my first.
All right,
what you got?
So now I'm wondering how I should switch up my list, because I don't have like a number one. I just have like
trying
5.
to segue to that.
Yeah, where do I go? Where do I segue from that? Okay, I know where I'll go with this one.
Okay,
I'll say I got one answer that I'm excited to talk about. Well, I'm excited to talk about all of them.
Yes.
But all right, I'm going to throw in my second one here.
Cool.
I'm going to go with Tim Curry. And I know people are saying, it's Tim Curry. People talk about his performances all the time. But they don't really talk about Death of Some Salesmen.
No, they don't.
Tales from the Crypt.
Yep.
I know if you look up, like I think Blade Discussing had a list from like 2016 of best Tales from the Crypt episodes. Mm-hmm. It was like 15 and this was like 14 or something like that. Mm-hmm. The fact that you have one dude playing like a whole family...
Which is always amazing.
It's just, well, here's the other reason I picked it. One, it's because I do feel like it was Tim Curry got to be as ridiculous as he wanted to play these other people,
right? Which
is fun because each character that it's him playing the mom,
yep,
playing the dad, playing their so attractive daughter,
yep.
But he gives all of them distinctive personalities.
Yes,
and so even though I know I'm watching Tim Curry, mm-hmm. I feel like I'm watching 3 different sets of people.
Totally.
And the other thing is in the Blade Disgusting article, I read through it and I agree with it. It felt to me, because I saw this article today before we recorded, because I was like, I think I swapped it for like Nicole Kidman and the others, because like, duh, obviously. Like, that's such an obvious, like, duh, of course Nicole Kidman's great. What are we thinking, Nick? But they said, and this is how I felt when I read it, that it was like the pinnacle of like what that show could be.
Yes.
Where it could be extremely silly, it can be very scary, mm-hmm. But more importantly, it can blend the two together seamlessly.
And it can push the boundaries.
Exactly. And right. and that episode itself is a fantastic episode. I mean, there's a lot of them. If you Google top whatever Tales from the Crypt horror episodes, everyone's got their picks. But I feel like this is one of those that's going to be in everyone's list at some point in time.
I feel like we could make the Horror Society of America generate 10,000 lists of underappreciated performances, and no one would have picked this. So yeah. I think that's right that no one's talking about this.
And here's the thing: is like a lot of the lists that we saw on like Dread Central and like some of the other picks that that we just went with mm-hmm. were from actors who are like very, very serious, who take it 110%. Like this is an art. I'm gonna bring.
They were the Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis type. And not to say that Tim Curry's not. I mean, he's a very great actor, but sure. But he has this personality that isn't the Daniel Day-Lewis, where it's just this authentic, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to have fun because I'm a silly motherfucker, yep. But I'm also going to convince you that I'm 3 other people.
Right. Well,
you're going to believe it.
There's a subset of actors that are just their own genre.
He is.
Right?
He's in that.
Walken is.
Yep.
John Malkovich is.
More recently,
Jeff Goldblum is.
More recently, the guy who played Freddie Mercury, Rami Malek or whatever.
Right.
I feel like he's the newest introduction.
And Tim Curry was.
Yeah. And there's just something about that where they can be them, even if them is silly and ridiculous, but you buy it 110%.
Absolutely.
And I was looking through other Tales from the Crypt episodes. There's that one where Christopher Reeves works at that diner and they start serving people. I was like, should I go with that one? But there was something I couldn't. I thought about doing All Throughout the House, having the main lead, that one lady go in there. But there's just something about being able to take a huge personality and to fall into 3 different things on screen.
It stuck with you. That's what's important.
Yeah, and I have to give it to that one. And also, what was it Ed Begley Jr.? I think I watched.
Yeah, Ed Begley Jr.
Yeah, having him on the other side. In fact, I think Blade Disgusting said on the top of their pick, they just said, "You'll get cash," because I think that's what he told, because he's scamming people with insurance. And ever since I watched that episode, I think I've mentioned this before. Like whenever we say like cash or dollars, it's because of how he said it. So it rubbed off on how I say certain words.
That's amazing. Well, that's an impact.
And plus, if you put together like a Tim Curry montage, for some reason, like I think there was a video of like all of Tim Curry's laughs put together. I could be wrong, but I don't remember seeing Tales from the Crypt in there.
Probably not.
Yeah, couldn't recognize him.
I didn't pick any TV. I should have, but I didn't.
I got one that bleeds into T. I got it. We talked about my one answer coming up.
You covered us. That's good.
Oh yeah, I covered us in multiple ways, but the one I got coming up here soon was such a conflicting piece of shit for me.
So watch this. Watch the breadth of the span of my interest. I'm going to move us from Wolfens in 1981 all the way over to The Howling, 1981. I don't know why I picked
that's right.
1981 movies, but so Jean-Luc Godard is a French director. He said in an interview, they asked him about this movie Breathless, which is a famous movie of his about it's sort of like their Bonnie and Clyde a little bit. And he said this film is a documentary about Jean and John Paul. Those are the 2 stars, right? So basically every movie, whatever else a movie is, it's basically a documentary of its actors. Like whatever they're going through in their life at that time, whatever, this all gets thrown into the pot. Like you get parts of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that effect is something that we're not really aware of most of the time. Like we don't know what Angelina Jolie was going through when she was, well, I guess with her, everyone knows when she was gone. That's a bad example. But like you don't know what really what they're processing in their life while they're doing these amazing roles, right? Who knows, like Andy Serkis could have like had a huge tragedy in his life during one of the Planet of the Apes. You would never know, right?
Yeah.
The reason I picked this, because remember, I was looking for special things that made the performance not just good, but like special, right? So Joe Dante said the best actress he's ever worked with in his entire career is Dee Wallace from The Howling, right? And this is how he described it in that book about The Howling that we were talking about recently. So it says, this is Joe Dante talking, right? Dee Wallace's nervous energy and uncompromising devotion to her character and her character's situation is nothing short of breathtaking, right? Wallace's masterful handling of the role is a direct result of her dedication to performance. She is quite simply outstanding. The film is only as good as it is because of her magnetic and channeled characterization. Right? So first of all, that's just a badass like endorsement from a director, right? But the thing that I found out reading this book was that the whole movie was different the way they conceived it, right? They conceived so the Howling 81, this is the time where everyone's doing these tough as nails, hard bitten, like Law and Order detectives, right? Detectives it was like Kolchak, Night Stalker, that era, right? So like these detectives were hard charging. They didn't take any shit. Like Telly Savalas, fucking whatever, I forget what he played, Kojak, right? So you got that was the style. So they wrote this tough, hard-nosed female journalist character. And Dee Wallace came in and they loved her so much they put her in the part. But because Dee Wallace is her the way she was playing the role, doing the role, is she was doing it a lot more vulnerable, a lot softer, a lot more complicated than just like, like let's break some legs and get some answers. Like, she basically changed the entire movie. They steered towards her. They were like, she's so good. We want more of what she's doing. And they gradually took over the movie. So she basically transformed The Howling from the way they pictured it to the way that we got it. Right. So first of all, that makes it a really special, thing. But the other special thing that stand out to me is this has only happened to me a couple times watching movies. Right. So like, it's a weird effect when you have. So first of all, I feel like she's a big precursor to Clarice Starling, like the whole.
Yeah, I can see
that whole role because Jodie Foster plays it the same way. She is tough and she is like take charge or whatever, but she's also super complicated. It's kind of conflicted, right? So like But the thing that was weird to me about this was, you know how Sleepaway Camp is that famous ending that you can't unsee? It like rattles you.
I can hear that.
Right, exactly.
That noise.
So this is the ending of The Howling when she transforms on TV and she's basically being sacrificed to our entertainment, and the way that ending is, so the way she played it and the sound she makes and the look on her face, I wanted to help her. I wanted to stop the movie and help her. Right. I remember as a kid, the first time I saw it, I was like, that person needs help. Right. I want to write her a note, tell her everything's going to be okay. Like, whatever. So like the fact that it was that I couldn't watch the ending. It's literally one of the very few horror movie endings where it affected me so much that when I knew the ending was coming on a rewatch, I just wouldn't watch it. Sort of like, avoid it. Right. Because I just didn't want to be torn up like that again. Right. Like I felt like there was a real pain in that. It's sort of the way you feel for Shelley Duvall on The Staircase when Jack Nicholson's got the bat and The Shining.
You feel kind of sick. You're just like, oh,
exactly.
shit.
It's too much, right? So like she gave that, and the fact that she had that kind of impact just from what is basically a sort of silly monster movie, right? I think is like a really, really standout element. I don't hear a lot of people giving her credit. She never comes up in lists as like a scream queen or whatever we want to call these things. So like, I feel like this deserves a lot more attention for just how goddamn good she was. So she's my second.
That is a good choice.
I'm gonna move off 81 eventually. I promise.
Are you sure?
I promise.
We got some other good movies in there. We can probably fit it on the list.
Probably do.
All right.
What you got?
I think I want to go with this one. And I know I've heard the name pronounced before, but I don't want to botch it. Let me just... What do they
Show me the name. I might not want to say it.
Oh, it's the What We Do in the Shadows guy.
Oh, I won't.
Takata Takia.
Yeah, I won't fuck that up.
Tago... Shit. You know what's funny is I hate what we've done this before, like when we did... That's how we... Remember we had to like listen to them say the name?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to go with...
You can do it.
What We Do in the Shadows. Okay, hold on. Let me just get... Okay.
What's he play in What We Do in the Shadows?
He's the main... Hold on.
Take away the tie.
No, that's no.
Take away the tie.
No. There's no fucking
that's probably
way.
Exactly right.
Is that how you're supposed to say
you
it?
have to watch an interview because they're going to introduce him.
Oh, hold on.
Take away to tea.
Take away... Dude, where the fuck did I come up with...
I don't know.
Okay, take a... Wait, okay, we're gonna go with that one.
No, okay.
He's the main vampire.
Yes.
I can't believe I fucked that name up so bad. A lot of eyes in there. He's the main vampire in What We Do with the Shadows. So it's when the first vampire you see, he opens up and he kind of leans up halfway. It's the main character.
Yes.
He's the dandy who got turned into a vampire.
Yes.
And I wanted to put some horror comedy on the list because here's the thing: is someone like Tucker and Dale, they're great. I love them to death. I can watch the movie 1,000 times. But there's something about almost everyone in What We Do in the Shadows who just... And maybe because they're well, I mean, Tucker Dale's a character too. But there's just something, again, like... I keep going back to this like I did with Tim Curry. There's something genuine about his character. Because he has this innocence to him throughout the whole movie.
Totally.
Where like... he's a vampire. They don't do the greatest things to humans, but that's okay. But there's something so sweet to him, and the whole time I'm believing the shit out of it. I rewatched this film twice.
I love how you underplayed as a horror person. You were like, the vampires do a couple.
Isn't that bad? But I just rewatched this film twice. We did it just a few days ago,
yes,
and then I did it back in December when I went back home for Christmas in Ohio.
Yes,
both times that I watched it, I completely forgot. Like whenever there's the one other Vlad, the guy who's basically acting like Vlad the Impaler.
Oh yeah.
From Flight of the Conchords, and every time I see him, I go, "That's the guy from Flight of the Conchords." But with I never once lost track of that. I always believed like this is the character watching. And here's the other thing. This is the reason I brought it in there is,
and comedy's hard to play.
That's what that was the next point, is the fact that he is funny from the very, very first frame. Because the very first thing he does is fucking hilarious. He's trying to get out of his coffin. And you're like, he's a vampire. And he's funny from the very first frame. to the very end of the film.
Totally.
When the werewolves come over and they're all having like a great time, and I think that's incredibly hard to do.
I think horror comedy is really hard to do. I think it's easy to be funny in horror if you're a good writer. Like it was easy for Jordan Peele to make the TSA guy funny and get out, right? But to make a movie overall funny and still scary or legit as horror in some way is really not. It's hard. That's not easy.
And his character, because he directed Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
Korg, the rock guy.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That was him too. And again, he just comes in. He's just hilarious. And I feel like who's the greatest comedy actor right now, off the top of your head?
Bill Murray.
You still in 1981? Is that where you're?
Hey man, he's not dead.
He's still in 1981. No, he's still funny. I feel like.
Well, no, I mean, I guess when you say greatest comedy, because I think of greatest actor overall, who's,
like right now, like who's
greatest actor overall who's primarily funny, right? So Bill Murray can be serious. He was really good in Lost in Translation, but he's also super hilarious. Bill Murray is still.
I think Bill Hader's probably a good.
Bill Hader's a good one too. He's really good.
There's some of that. But the fact that he remains funny throughout the whole film, because like there's parts, like I love Tucker and Dale, but there are a few slow parts in the film, like mainly like when the kids start to get up to their schemes in the force. But there's not. I don't think there's any stretch of What We Do in the Shadows that I
No, What We Do in the Shadows is probably, you know how nothing in life is pure, right? Like everything's 95% or 90% or 50-50 or like whatever. Nothing's pure, but I'm 100% in and unconflicted on What We Do in Shadows becoming a franchise. There's something really special about.
They have that show coming on FX. Yeah.
So there's
doesn't have him in it though.
Right. I meant like them.
Like, I want more if it was them, that's why I was sort of bummed. Like when I watched a clip for the FX version, and the concept was funny. Like they were buying something at the grocery store, and he kept throwing his coins at the peasant guy. But it was just, but the guys who were acting as him, I'm sure that the show's gonna be hilarious. I'm gonna love it. But you can, I feel like, and I'd have to ask Alex on, but I'm sure they would agree. You connect with his character the very first frame you see him, because he gets up and he's a vampire and he fucking looks at the camera with his sleepy eyes and just tries to smile. There's like this sweetness to him. But I feel like in terms of, I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to do like my list is like. It's not really like the Daniel Day-Lewisy type of people. It's more of like the silly character people who I think are being 100% genuine
and nailing it
the whole time. There's not one part in that movie where I look at him and I'm like,
no,
that's not funny.
And I don't think that's another thing I think people underrate in this kind of thing is just commitment. Like people who commit 100%. That's one of the reasons I love Edie Falco from The Sopranos. Like I just felt like
that's what Jenny was praising before you came over.
Totally like was committed to that role 1,000%. Like no hesitation. That you would do
and that's how I feel.
Whatever it takes.
I feel that way about the whole cast, but being that he's the guy we see the most of, I have to give it to him.
So I'm gonna go out of 81, and
is that your final answer?
Emerge for 81. And this is horror adjacent, but I'm going to put it because it's one of the scariest monsters who's ever appeared on film, and nobody talks about this movie. Okay, so there's a movie called Ripley's Game. It is in the same series of movies as The Talented Mr. Ripley. They're not
Taika Waititi. That's how I've heard Taika. I've heard it pronounced like that. It's driving fucking nuts. Okay, sorry.
The Ripley movies are not. They're connected by the author. They're not connected by the people who made them. Right. But Ripley's Game is a villain who's played by John Malkovich, and it is the only portrayal on film I've seen, and this includes Zodiac, right? Where I felt like someone was going toe to toe with Hannibal Lecter, and
really,
like literally,
that's a bold claim.
Toe to toe,
that's bold like Doritos,
I know, and that's why it's on this list, right? Because I don't think anyone knows that this happened, but it happened. So, but here's the weird thing. So I was researching like whatever, and I couldn't find not many people have seen this movie. It was made in Europe. It doesn't even feel really American, right? So. And it's not a big cast. It's John Malkovich, and then the next one is Doug Ray Scott, who I don't even know what the hell he was in. And then it was.
I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if I had a cousin named that.
Right. And then Ray Winstone, who's an amazing actor, but he's a character actor. But I'm researching it, and then I go to Roger Ebert, who basically he didn't really like horror movies. He liked, he didn't really like scary movies.
Yeah.
he gives this movie like 5 stars and a rave, like whatever. And I was interested. I was wondering why. And this is his first, man, I missed this guy's writing. This is his first paragraph on it. Tom Ripley is fascinating in the sense that a snake is fascinating. He can kill you, but he will not take it personally, and neither should you. He's well educated, has good taste, is a connoisseur of art, music, food, wine, and architecture, and commits horrendous crimes and gets away with them. I don't worry about being caught, he says, because I don't believe anyone is watching. By anyone, he means cops, witnesses, victims, God, whoever.
Wow.
Right? That's how this review starts.
Man, they don't have reviewers like that
No,
anymore.
no, they absolutely don't. But he plays this part in a way that I've never seen a villain played, right? So he plays it as a complete sociopath. But you know how sociopaths are, they have to be like geniuses who are playing 7D chess with everything in life?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Hannibal
yeah.
Lecter style. He's
exhausting.
super smart and he's an expert in things, but he's feeling his way through the whole thing. So the plot of this movie turns on this guy's trying to get him to, so he's an art dealer. He poses as an art dealer. He stole someone's identity. And he's basically a hired assassin, but he doesn't want to do it anymore. Sort of, right? So he's wealthy now. You know, he's got a beautiful wife. He's, you know, he lives in a gorgeous place, and he basically has like a really, really good life. So why go out and kill people some more? But this guy who he worked for, the syndicate that he worked for, really wants this other job done and thinks he's the only way to do it. So he goes to a party down the street, neighbors, and one of the neighbors, who's a married couple, and the husband, he randomly, just offhandedly insults him, right? He says something bad to John Malkovich, like whatever. And it's not even that deep an insult. It's something akin to, you know, my wine's better than your wine or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And John Malkovich sets about ruining his life. So he decides to set this guy up, frame him, and make him the assassin for the job that he doesn't want to do. Gets him involved in it, gets people around him that he loves killed, all of that stuff. And when the guy turns to him later in the movie, he goes, "Why did you do all this horrendous stuff to me?" His answer is, A, because I could, B, because you could, C, because you insulted me, and D, because it's the game. It was just so matter of fact, but he doesn't know. He's feeling his way through this plan. He doesn't know why he's doing it, like whatever. And then these two guys end up being sort of friends. And he saves his life. The straight guy saves John Malkovich's life. He ends up getting killed. He saves John Malkovich's life, and while he's dying, while the guy he takes a bullet for John Malkovich. While he's dying, the guy feels like he really fulfilled his mission because he's really come to see life the way John Malkovich's character sort of does. And John Malkovich looks at him and he goes, "Why would you do that?" Like, he's not this all-knowing super evil genius. He's just a really curious, interested, super smart, very successful fucking monster who just kills everything in his path for no reason. There's a scene, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. He goes and offers art to these people, and they offer him money back, and he doesn't like what they offered. So he's leaving. He's packing up his shit. He's like, "I'm not selling these sketches, these valuable drawings for this." And the guy in the office, the bodyguard of the guy who's buying it, starts trying to help him put the papers back, you know, away. He goes, "Don't touch him." And the guy keeps doing it. So he kills him. He beats him to death with a poker. And then the guy at the desk is watching his bodyguard get beat down. So he dies. And then he looks at him and he goes, "You know what? I wasn't going to sell, but now I'm going to accept your offer. $5.7 million. He takes his suitcase of money. He goes, "And I'm going to take the drawings too." And he takes the drawings too. He goes, "Do you want to keep the folder? It's leather." Jesus. Like, he just has no remorse, no like whatever, just total flair. And it's just this just really hypnotic, incredible performance. And besides how good he was at it, what makes it really special is 2 other actors have played this exact same character. One is Matt Damon and the other is Dennis Hopper. And this is the best performance. So anyone who takes down Matt Damon, Dennis Hopper, and stands toe-to-toe with Anthony Hopkins in the killer genius, you know, sort of not genius, like whatever. It's like Norman Bates, but stock savvy. It's weird. It's hard to describe, but it's just an amazing.
If anyone is going to go to that mantle, that high level, I think John Malkovich is probably the
he's totally chilling. And I'm telling you, there's a scene in this movie where They go to do the killing that is the whole point of the job that he talked them into, and it gets really complicated. And they have to kill not only the guy but his bodyguards and all this stuff, and they have to do it on one of those fancy like Europe trains that like Hitchcock would use, like a bullet train.
Oh yeah.
And they're killing the guys in the bathroom, and by the time they're done killing them, they're stacked like firewood in this bathroom, and they're strangling them all with razor wire, right? So it's bloody and brutal, and they're getting stacked high, and the straight guy's just losing his mind, and he's crying, and he's like shattered, and John Malkovich just keeps looking at him with that Norman Bates bent head look, like, why are you so upset? We're just killing people. It's an amazing performance. So he's my next.
I like that answer. I like that answer over Shadow of a Vampire. Do people talk about Shadow of a Vampire?
Shadow of a Vampire,
or do you think
is talked about highly, just not.
But you would probably give that to Willem Dafoe.
Big enough circle of people, Yeah, I think William Dafoe's performance is actually better than Malkovich's in that movie, in that particular movie.
Yeah, that's a toss-up.
But this like Patricia Highsmith wrote the Ripley series, and she's the person who created Strangers on a Train. So she's basically the mystery version of Shirley Jackson, who did Haunting of Hill House. They were same time, same sort of personality. It's just one of the best villain roles ever written, and this is the best version of it. And no one talks about this movie, and it kind of blows my mind because it's the series of books is like the 50s, 60s. Hopefully, I have that time period right, but it's that era of that. It was those 20, 30-year era. That was their Sherlock Holmes, right? And that series, like that was a really, really highly acclaimed series. And it would, Sherlock Holmes, like anyone, like I could go play Sherlock Holmes and someone write an article.
Yeah.
But here is the best performance of one of the best written villains of all time. And I've never hear it mentioned. So I just wanted to throw it in.
I would be a terrible Watson. First of all, he's a doctor.
He is a doctor.
He is a doctor.
He's also not funny at all. So you can't do Watson.
No, I'd fix your computer, but like that's a doctor, a computer doctor, but like that's about it. That's about as good as I can do.
All right, what you got next?
All right, I'm gonna save my big one for last, obviously, because I think there's a good conversation in there over what is bandwagoning and all that other shit. I'm just creating suspense for my last answer.
Yes.
My real fourth answer, though, this one actually hurts me more because it conflicted me so hard. Actor by the name of Ross Lynch.
Who?
Ross Lynch.
Okay.
No relation.
At least we could say that one.
Yeah, we could say. Oh, Jesus Christ.
No relation to David.
We've never had like a director or something like comment on the show, but like if everyone was like, "This is how you pronounce it," I'd probably pass that. I'd be like, "Oh shit, I failed you." But Ross Lynch,
yes,
you know him. Well, we all know him because we've seen both things as Harvey Kinkle from Sabrina, but he's not. This is why it's hurt me, bro. This hurts me so bad. I started talking like Randy Savage.
That's right.
I'm watching me. I was like, "Listen here, brother. This is why this one's gonna hurt. This hurts me on a cellular level. Cellular level.
You should do this whole segment like that.
Okay, so listen here, brother. This is why. Okay, so he was Harvey Kinkle Sabrina.
Yes,
we know how I felt.
Yes,
but for the people who don't know. Kind of boring.
Yes.
He's just super boring. And it's obviously a writing thing.
Yes.
And, in a world full of witches, ghouls, demons, scarecrows, and, cats and magic, maybe the normal dude at high school is not who you want to focus on. I get it.
Totally.
That's fine. He obviously hasn't done a vacation to Flavortown. No biggie.
Yep.
But what really got me fucked up was when I was like, who is this actor? Ross Lynch. Because he's not bad in Sabrina. It's just a boring character.
Right.
As of right now.
Yes.
And I looked it up. And he was in My Friend Dahmer playing Jeffrey Dahmer. Which I don't know if you know this. I fucking love.
Yes.
Me and Alex saw that at the Liminal in Pasadena. We laughed. We were like, that was such a good movie. Like he was so fantastic because Dahmer was just a fucking weirdo, and he crushes in this movie. And it's absolutely, there's that scene at the end that we were talking about, absolutely terrifying. And he plays Jeffrey Dahmer like you feel you know what he's gonna do. He's gonna turn into this monster and kill some men, and it's fucked up. But you also feel like there's heartbreak for him because you see his family life. You see he's got his mom's like crazy. She's off her rocker, and the dad's just trying to do his best. But his dad's like, at some point in time, I just can't really do a whole lot with what you got. You know, gotta know when to fold him.
Yes.
But his portrayal of Jeffrey Dahmer was super fantastic.
I'm going to be so interested to see. Remember when we discovered Final Destination 5 was the highest rated fifth installment of a horror series? And we were like, I wonder who's going to knock it out eventually, right?
Yeah.
I'm so curious to see because I feel like humanity is bad at so many things now. We can't even run the government, apparently. Like, right, it's shut down. I mean, it's hard.
We're back on for a couple weeks.
It's hard to get things done right, but I feel like for some reason we have figured out how to play serial killers. The guy who played Ed Kemper in Mindhunter was amazing.
Yeah.
Right? John Carroll Lynch playing the Zodiac Killer in Zodiac was amazing, right? And this Dahmer performance is amazing, and I'm going to be really curious to see what Zac Efron does with Ted Bundy, right? So,
well, the other reason why this really knocked my socks off is because I wasn't familiar with Ross Lynch's performance before, because I think he was like a Nickelodeon star or something like that.
Okay.
So all the headlines leading up to this film was Nickelodeon star Ross Lynch to play Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'm like, a Nickelodeon star,
right?
Playing a serial killer. How's that going to work out?
Right.
And then we saw the film, and we're like, oh, like that. That's exactly how you do it. Because, like if someone was like, Nick, you got to, well, it depends on like what serial killer, but if someone said act like a killer, you'd probably act kind of crazy, or you would ham it up.
Totally.
A lot. But he was just so reserved.
You do like what Freddie Highmore did with Norman Bates.
Exactly.
Bates Motel.
It was exactly like that. Like, what was great about his performance was you saw the curiosity in the character.
Yes.
You saw when he started killing things like birds and like bigger animals. It's like you saw the spark like in the character's eye, and you understood why. You're like, okay, yeah, he's got some repressed shit that his parents don't let him. He had that shed that he built where he would dissect animals, and then they broke it and all that other shit. But he gave a very good understanding into the character that made you really feel for him.
And that can't be easy to do. That's got to be hard to get in the head.
Especially with someone with a name like Jeffrey Dahmer. Right. You already, you go in there, you know the name, you know what he's done. You're like, I'm not really going to give two shits about him. He's a serial, I'm going to watch it because it seems like it's going to have some horror elements into it. But then you leave. It's sort of like when we watched, not to the same extent because she wasn't a murderer.
It's a difference.
But big difference. When we watched the Amy Winehouse documentary.
Yes.
When she was alive in the tabloids, I was like, oh, that's that druggy lady. But I never knew anything. I didn't know how fucking talented she was.
Right.
I didn't know how beautiful like the music was she was writing. So then when you watch that documentary, like you're heartbroken because you're like, she's been dead for a handful of years now.
Yep.
And there's nothing you could do.
Totally.
And so when you get the insight into that person's history and backstory and all that stuff, you feel for them more. And I feel like that sort of did it for Jeffrey Dahmer.
Sure.
Just because you see how much of it was like his family life that just shattered him.
Right.
And made him sort of break off from the rest of society.
I can't believe Harvey Kinkle pulled it off.
Yeah, and that's what drives me fucking nuts, brother. Now I'm going back into my macho Randy Savage mode. Because then he goes and he plays Harvey Kinkle. And I guarantee it's a story because he's a good
not his fault.
It's not his fault. And that's what breaks my heart. He's a good fucking actor.
That's right.
Hopefully they give him some writing.
Yep.
Bryce
played some dud roles.
But that's okay. He's got My Friend Dahmer under his belt, so like I'm totally cool with it. But hopefully they give him some a little bit more meat in Sabrina season 2. By the way,
yes,
one of our fans, Jessica.
Yes.
Did you see I tagged you in it?
No.
When we and you we were like, why is it called shipping? And then she was like, relation.
I don't know what that was.
Relationship. So they just take the ship it in there. I very literally.
No idea.
Very literally thought there was a ship involved. I thought there was a captain in a ship and a crow's nest. It was crazy.
Well, I don't have a ship for you, but I do have a car because I'm going to cheat.
Oh, this is a great one.
I'm going to cheat.
I like this one.
I'm definitely going to cheat, but I'm going to justify it. So my fourth great performance is the car Christine in the movie named after her. So the reason
I love this.
The reason I'm choosing this, I know it's not a performance car.
It is. There's a group of people behind her who had there
were a lot of cars and a lot of people doing it. But here's the thing. I think that, like, who knows, 200 years from now, AI is going to be running everything and looking back and watching these movies, and it's going to be more interested in like the toasters and stuff in the movies than the humans, right?
Christine
like,
will be their Citizens Kane.
Exactly.
They're like, you see how that car did?
Exactly. Right, exactly. But when you look at like when they blend things like the way Andy Serkis is doing Gollum and stuff, like I feel like their technology is a lot more involved in performance, and I feel like this is like Christine was ahead of the self-driving car trend.
True.
Right, and I feel like she's also going to be ahead of the performance trend that involves technology. This character has so much personality. The movie rises and falls on the personality of this character, and the people making the movie knew it. There were actually a lot of scenes that they did that were emotional development scenes between the other characters in the movie, the human characters, and they cut them all because they were like more car.
Wow.
Right. And there's an amazing book that Lee Gammon wrote that we posted on our Facebook page of kind of like the definitive book on the making of Christine. And it's a really, really good book. So I recommend it. Look up Lee Gammon. But so a lot of the facts came out that, I got the idea from kind of like how they wanted the car to be really nuanced and present different personalities in different situations and all that stuff. And this was all on purpose, right? But one of the things that I really like is, so first of all, the movie Christine starts with her roaring at you. Like the very first thing before you even see an image.
Coming down the assembly line, yeah.
It's that engine roaring and growling. So literally you're introduced to Christine with her growling at you, and then it's going down the assembly line. All the cars look the same, but she's different, right? Because she stands out. And the thing that was really cool to me was in the book, the car's sort of haunted by its owner's dead ghost. Mm-hmm. John Carpenter hated that idea, so he got rid of the ghost. He made it just the car. He got rid of all the past supernatural elements of the dead guy, right? So because he was like, and not that this is bad, don't take it the wrong way, but he was like, if I had made a ghost in the back seat, controlling the car all the time, it would have been like very Haunted Mansion, which is not what he was going for.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
that makes sense.
He went straight for just the car thing, right? And the thing that I find really amazing about this is there are scenes with the car where you are like, everyone in the movie is trying to figure out. One of the things I like about Alexandra Paul's character is she won't call it her. She calls it it. Because she's not going to humanize it, right?
Yeah.
Because she realizes that she's sort of in a love triangle, which is fucked up when you think about it, with this car, right? But they wanted it at the end when it's circling around, hunting down people and doing the things that it does. They wanted it to look like, they literally busted out some of the grills so it looked like it had shark's teeth. Like they were on purpose doing that, like,
that's so smart.
Make it look like a face, make it move like it's a shark circling for its prey. These things were not accidental, and it's just an outstanding character that carries the whole movie, right? So that's the thing to me about this movie is that at the end of the day, one of the things that makes acting performances special is the movie can't do without it. You can't take Anthony Hopkins out of Silence of the Lambs, right?
Yeah.
Other movies you can subtract things from. Like you could take one of the monsters out of Monster Squad, and Monster Squad would still be great. You could replace one of the monsters with another monster.
You could get rid of one of Tim Curry's characters because he'll pop up like a whack-a-mole. That's another character.
he totally will. But this movie, like obviously for obvious reasons, it's true. But also if they had just done a run-of-the-mill car movie and not given it this much personality, we wouldn't be talking about it today. So I just think it's a really
I love that choice
performance from it. And one of the things you can tell that she's got the songs give it attitude. I love when Dennis is trying to get into the car and the radio comes on, and it's like, you keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
Yeah.
This is the song playing. Like she's talking to people, through the
like
movie,
Bumblebee
through the music. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it's also that, last thing to me is, it's also, you can tell, I don't know how they managed to convey this, but you can tell there's a little bit of malice and spite in the way that she's getting it done. One of my favorite things about the movie that you notice when you watch it like a second or third time is it's very female centric, right? And obviously, and the guys in the movie, like there's this big killer car, and the guys in the movie, remember, so long way around to explain this. Remember at the end of Green Room when one of my favorite lines in a movie in the last 20 years, when she turns to Patrick Stewart and she goes, I thought you were so scary at night, but you look so small in the daylight, you know? So, like, you know, all these guys in the beginning, Buddy Repperton, the bully, is a really, really imposing guy. When he beats up Arnie, you just feel for him. You're like, why? You got to go to school with this guy who's clearly 20 years older than you, 3 times your size. And he's got that fucking switchblade. You know, he stabs his lunch with it and threatens him with it, you know, like whatever. And all of that's really scary. But in retrospect, it's hilarious because all of these are like phallic symbols. And compared to Christine, their little switchblade, they're little tiny. This is not going to work, right? And the moment it keyed in for me that was what the movie was doing on purpose was when she crashes into the gas station and just wipes everybody out, crushes Buddy's car, kills all his friends, sets everything on fire, pulls out of the gas station on fire like a satanic possessed car, and he's just standing there with his crowbar. And he just throws it and runs. He's got this little 4-foot crowbar. And he's like, sees this huge burning car. And he's like, dink, and just takes off. Like, all these guys are just getting emasculated by this fucking killer car. And it's outstanding. But you can tell somehow, some way she enjoys it. That's the point.
That was one of the films that I had seen clips of it growing up, all that jazz. But we watched it in a watch party in the group. And there's something about watching a movie for the first time in the watch party.
Oh, it's so fun.
That was so fun.
Yeah, it's
and
so
Christine
fun
was a great one to have on there.
Yeah, and that was a good group too. It's a good crowd in that group. So, all right,
I like Christine.
What's your finale?
All right, so if you haven't by now, went to nixbandwagons.org, .gov. I'm bandwagon. It's not really
bandwagons.edu.
It's not really bandwagoning.
No, it's not.
But I'm gonna say it is because it's easier.
No, I actually like.
But we did this. We did it for How Low Can We Go?
Yes.
That's Jennifer's Body.
We were ahead of our time.
Yes. There we go. I think
they were bandwagoning us.
They were bandwagoning us. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that.
That episode's like what, 2 years old now?
Yeah, it's pretty old. I'll say we were pioneers, mavericks, if you will.
Yes.
I wanted to give it to Megan Fox because I feel like she gets a lot of shit as an actress.
Yes.
Because of like the Transformers stuff and Transformers being a pretty big part of it.
Yes. And Jonah Hex, which for some strange reason I can't stop watching when it comes on, but I know is not.
But she's one of those actors that gets shit on.
Yes.
You know, people will say like, "Oh, she's more of a model than an actor," and then like all that other.
She has got an unbelievable amount of shit, and she got a lot of shit after Jennifer's Body. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's a little unfair.
It's more than a little unfair. It's a lot unfair. It's a great movie.
I think you're right. It is pretty unfair. But the main reason I wanted to give it for Jennifer's Body is because A, she got a bunch of shit, which I don't think she deserved.
Yes.
2, she was in that film with Amanda Seyfried. Is that right?
Yes.
And she's a great actress.
Yes.
But she just blows the water. Someone like her, the fact that she was able to like, I think let me read my notes here. What I said was, this showcases if you get a director who really cares about the actor and the material, you can really bust out a horror gem, as opposed to like what was Michael Bay's story? Like he put her in heels, made her walk a mile, and like left her. So it was some dumb shit like that.
Exactly.
And of course, like if a director did that to me, I'm gonna show the next thing on set and I'm gonna phone it the fuck in,
right?
Because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get an Uber.
Well, what are you supposed to do with that fucking writing anyway? Like, how are you supposed to act that?
Exactly.
Right.
And I think it's fucked up. So I think what they were able to do with Jennifer's Body was really put on a good ass performance. And that's the thing is every time she's on screen in that film, I feel so like not unsecure. I don't feel safe.
Yep.
I don't feel safe about it.
Yep.
In fact, I feel less safe around her than I do Hannibal Lecter. There, I said it.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the weird thing. I agree. I feel like that. I mean, that Hannibal Lecter's character is better written and more iconic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'll grant all that. But the weird thing is, I feel like there's a weird sort of comfort now from Hannibal Lecter after all this time.
Yeah.
You sort of know what you're getting. You know what he's trying to accomplish, basically, right?
Yeah.
But there's something so off about her and this universe and how it went.
Dangerous.
Right, exactly. The pieces don't fit, and it's not safe. It's like all the furniture in your house was put together wrong, and every time you sit on something, it goes sideways or slants, or like that's what that movie feels like, and that's a really unsettling feeling that I love.
And let me just make sure I get the year right here. Jennifer's Body. because I was trying to think of like, why did I not watch the film when it came out? It's 2009, so I was graduating high school.
It was come and gone, and it got shit on so bad.
That was after Transformers. So I feel like that it just got this really unfair.
Well, that movie got beat the hell up. It was way ahead of its time, and no one knew what the hell they were dealing with when that movie came out.
I think you're right. But there's something about her presence, like.
Yeah, so can I disagree with you a little bit? Bring
it on.
Okay, so I think Amanda Seyfried is as good as Megan Fox in this movie. I think
she's good and like.
Right, I know Megan Fox deserves more credit. So but that's the thing is I think there's two really good performances in this movie, and the thing that's interesting about watching two good performances side by side is that Megan Fox is one of the very, very few people who you could just tell would have been an old Hollywood studio star, right? She's like that. Whatever that is, she's that. She's the Ava Gardner. Like she has that gene, whatever that is. So it's not just the performance; it's just it. It's whatever that is.
You know what's funny?
Not many people have that. Angelina Jolie has it. And not many other people have that. In a weird way, like if we do all genders, right? In a weird way, Keanu Reeves sort of has it. I don't know how to explain it, but he has the gene, but he doesn't have the chops really.
You know what I keep wanting to compare her to? Mm-hmm. It's Val Kilmer. There's a sharpness to their look.
Yes, it's unorthodox look, but it's super magnetic.
Yeah, there's a sharpness to that look where when you see someone, you immediately trust them.
Yep.
Something's not right.
Yep.
But you feel, but that's a good thing because when shit goes down, they're gonna be the crazy motherfucker that takes care of it, and that's what she did in Jennifer's Body that I thought was so hypnotizing.
Yep.
It was really good.
Absolutely. And that the other thing is one of the marks of any performance, like anyone we would dare to put on this list and anyone that you think of when you're thinking of really good acting performance, they have to be able to sustain rewatching.
Yes.
You got to find other things in it, and it's got to like affect you in different ways on a rewatch. Like, that's the thing is if you can't rewatch a performance, it can't be that good. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things. It's just an amazing performance because you rewatch it, you catch things you didn't catch the first time through.
It's a super rewatchable movie.
Yep, for sure.
I just feel kind of bad. I'm sure she got paid pretty damn well for it, so she's probably not feeling too bad for it. But
no.
But I feel like
I don't feel bad for any of these people except for poor Christine.
Yeah. I mean, she did keep it, but she is gonna make a great radio. She's coming back. No, I was repurposing Christine for something in the last one of our later episodes. I was gonna use her as like a Siri car.
Oh, that's right.
I was an Alexa or something like that.
Like fucking Kit, Knight Rider.
Yeah, I was gonna use her just like that. That's a pretty good list.
Yes.
I feel good.
Okay, so my final one is Naomi Watts in Funny Games. And, I feel bad. I wanted to get some more obscure stuff, give some shout out to people. There were a couple things I liked about Dread Central's list. I love that they
had the Blob.
They had the Blob, which is their version of my Christine pick. But they had they gave shout out a lot of love to Pontypool, and that actor it was unknown. I wanted to find some unknown ones, but remember, my goal was to find a special element in, and I wanted to be passionate about it, really believe in it, so that I could be excited about talking about it. So I just couldn't get around this because the more I thought about it, the more I could not get around it. There's two things here that are important to me, right? So the first thing is, and like, that's the thing is, it's fine. So the first thing that's really important to me is, you and I talked about this before recording. I feel like she's the secret queen of horror remakes, or at least remakes, right? Like, it's hard to get a horror remake done right. Most horror remakes are not good. So the odds of making one good one are poor.
You know who she is?
Who is she?
She is the, the Rams kicker.
Oh, the Greg the Leg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we were watching it, Bill's like, I don't know. It's like a 50-something yard field goal. I was like, he's got this.
Got this.
That is Naomi Watts.
She's totally got this. And the thing is, so think about it. She was in, right? She was in King Kong, The Ring, and Funny Games.
Boom, boom, boom.
Those are three of the best.
Remember our cherry
remakes.
On top. Our cherry on top.
Our cherry on top is right. So, there's two.
Yeah, there is two. So it's a cherry.
So she was in my favorite horror movie of the last couple decades, which is Mulholland Drive. And she does an amazing acting scene in that movie where she has to act as an actress at an audition who's not very good, which she does amazingly well. Which
It's going to be hard when you're good.
Right. Which sounds like a shot, but it's not. And then, so she's in that, and then Twin Peaks: The Return, where she's absolutely mind-bogglingly good.
Bing, bang, boom.
So first of all, she's in some of the most influential, edgiest horror and horror adjacent properties of my lifetime, right? So
yeah.
And she's phenomenal in them. So that's one. But two, and this is the metaphor I came up with myself. So imagine that you get hired for your dream job and you're super excited about it. And you show up to work on the first day and you bought new clothes and you're just ready to
calls.
go. Yeah, you did your research and you're ready to go. And they show up and they go, look, we're glad you're here. Here's your office, whatever. And now we need you to do your job exactly the way the guy we fired did it. Like, exactly. Don't change.
That's a trick question because they got him fired.
Sit the way he sat. Wear what he wore. Right. Exactly. Right. And that is the weird situation of Funny Games. So for people who don't know, Funny Games, Michael Haneke's a great director. He did. He's a foreign director, so he did a foreign movie, and then it got Hollywood remade, but it's a shot-for-shot remake. Now, anyone who's seen Gus Van Sant's Psycho knows that shot-by-shot remakes don't work. They can't work. And what makes it even worse is they showed up for work, as did all the actors, to find out that they were doing a shot-for-shot remake. So all the blocking is already done. All that stuff's already done. You're basically just doing a movie someone else did the way they did it. And that has to be the worst, like, most demoralizing, most like unsettling feeling. Then combine it with the subject matter of this fucking movie.
Yeah,
right. So you have to go dark. You have to go really dark. You have to like let your personality. There's a great, of all people, fucking Mel Gibson had a great line about Hamlet way back in the day before he went nuts, where he said Hamlet's not an acting role. It's an assault on your personality. Right?
Wow.
So that is what must be being in movies like fucking The Strangers and Eden Lake and Funny Games. These can't be like, these have to be like Heath Ledger, Joker, tough roles to do, right?
Yeah.
So she's got that, and it's a shot-for-shot remake, and she nails it, and she manages to make it different and her own. It's terrifying. She's completely convincing, right? And all the things that you expect of like the absolute top level actors, the micro expressions, the little nuances, like all of those things are spot on. So the fact that she was up against that, the fact that she's brave enough to try it, the fact that she's a secret horror queen that no one talks about.
I like where we're going to the secret horror queen business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like all of that says to me, like, and there were so many. I wanted to put Barbara Crampton on here from We Are Still Here, and all kinds of other choices I want to make. I mean, we could do like 10 versions of this episode, but I just literally like the fact that in my belief, Twin Peaks is the scariest thing I have ever seen on a publicly broadcast channel.
Yeah.
Right? Not her. She wasn't in that one, right? But the fact that Twin Peaks, that IP, that property, the fact that she's now involved in it, a great character in it, and it's
Loving Wife of Dougie.
Yeah, it's one of the scariest things ever done. And there were moments in Twin Peaks: The Return that were just as scary as in the original.
Especially when Doug was like, hello.
Not that. Well, that was... And the fact that she's involved in that, the fact that she's involved in a remake of one of the greatest movies of all time, which is King Kong, right? And The Ring, and what am I going to do?
That's probably the most stacked resume out of all the picks.
So when you put it together, I'm like, horror fans really, really need to understand that they have royalty in their midst.
That's true. Not a lot of people do bring up Naomi Watts. Like they will talk about The Ring,
right? Well, and they see a lot of this stuff as horror adjacent, right? They don't really see King Kong as horror. They don't really see Twin Peaks as horror, but we come from a different mindset. So she's getting my final pick.
I like that. That's a good pick. What's the worst? Okay, so here's a question for you.
Yes.
We have our answers like Christine and the Dread Central had the Blob.
Yes.
What's the worst performance from like an object.
Lumiere. No. All right. So
Lumiere. He had a big musical number. You bet you know it.
So worst.
I got my answer.
Yeah, I have my answer already too. I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's whatever the hell they thought they were making in Jaws 4.
Oof. I think you won.
That's a pretty.
I was gonna go with the Tingler.
Yeah, well, the Tingler's got some backwards charm to it.
Yeah, but it when you went to the theater and someone would like throw the Tingler up.
Yeah, that's pretty lame.
You had to rely on some other people.
That's pretty lame.
Like
I'll give you that. But Bruce 4 is a fail. He's a hardcore fail.
Okay, I think I think I'm not gonna argue that one because those sharks did get.
But there's a lot more that I haven't thought of. So let us know in the comments on our Facebook page where we're going to post this episode, and also you're getting it wherever you're getting it. So iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify.
Yeah, and let us know let us know who you think was.
Yeah, give us some others. We might redo another version of this episode. So give us some suggestions. We got some great ones from the Facebook group. We've never mentioned this on the podcast, but we do a Facebook Live from our group every Thursday at 6 Pacific time.
Yes.
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately.
Right.
And you did stress Pacific time.
Yeah, so join us if you haven't. It's really, really fun. There are
a good time.
Amazingly knowledgeable horror people in there, from fans to people who work in the movies to people who write the movies. There's just like a really, really eclectic mix, and it's a blast. We have a really good time, and it's very interactive. We get a lot of ideas for the podcast from that very live, so join us if you can.
It's such a good time.
Yeah,
I look forward to it. Well, yesterday we did our live, and the flu hit me. Like, I recovered from the flu.
Yes.
And then you came over, like, with 20 minutes before.
Yep.
And my nose started running. So if you go through and you watch that one, I'm a hot mess, but I pulled together.
Yeah, you got hit. We were going to record the episode after that, and that's why the episode's a day late, because you were
that bird was cooked.
I would have loved to hear you do Randy Savage as a.
Probably would have been better. Probably would have been better. All right. Well, until next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of horror movies.
Bye, guys.